Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. In just the past few days, America has bid farewell to some truly extraordinary individuals, legends whose influence has shaped our culture, inspired countless lives, and will continue to echo through generations. Today, we pay tribute to their remarkable journeys, celebrate their timeless achievements, and reflect on the legacies they've left behind. If their stories have ever touched your heart, I invite you to honor them by liking this video, a small gesture to help keep their memory alive. Now, let's begin this heartfelt remembrance. Rick Davies, the English musician whose unmistakable voice and masterful piano playing powered the legendary band Supertramp, passed away on September 5, 2025, at the age of 81. His death marks the end of an era, but his music continues to echo through generations. Davies, alongside his creative counterpart Roger Hodgson, gave Supertramp its distinctive dual identity, his husky, grounded vocal tone providing a rich counterbalance to Hodgson's soaring high tenor. Together, they created a dynamic that defined the band's sound and captivated millions. Fans especially recall Davies' unforgettable performances of Goodbye, Stranger, where his deep, resonant vocals became a beloved hallmark of the band's live shows, drawing cheers and emotional connection from audiences worldwide. As a songwriter, Davies contributed to some of Supertramp's most enduring tracks, including Bloody Well Right and Ruddy, songs that showcased his blues-infused sensibilities within the band's polished pop-rock framework. These compositions didn't just entertain. They revealed the depth of his musical roots and the emotional honesty that ran through his work. The release of Breakfast in America in 1979 marked the band's commercial and creative peak, selling over 20 million records and producing hits that remain staples on playlists to this day. Davies' leadership was instrumental during this time and beyond. After Hodgson's departure in the 1980s, Davies took the reins, keeping Supertramp touring and recording, ensuring their music remained vibrant and relevant in a changing musical landscape. Born in 1944 in Swindon, England, Davies pursued music with passion from an early age. He mastered both piano and harmonica, laying the foundation for a career that would carve his name into the annals of rock history. His steady presence, often understated, always essential, became the bedrock upon which Supertramp thrived. For fans, Rick Davies leaves behind far more than a discography. He leaves a legacy of resilience, artistry, and songs that made millions sing, reflect, and feel. His music remains the soundtrack to countless lives, timeless in its emotional reach and musical brilliance. As a songwriter, performer, and band leader, Rick Davies helped shape the contours of rock history. His melodies still echo across generations, reminding us of the power of authenticity and the beauty of musical craftsmanship. To honor his life, his artistry, and his lasting contribution to music, comment 81, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Rick Davies. Let his legacy continue to inspire, uplift, and resonate. Greene, the pioneering Canadian Oneida actor whose powerful presence and unwavering commitment brought Indigenous stories to the forefront of film and television, passed away on September 1, 2025, at the age of 73. His passing marks the loss of a cultural trailblazer whose work reshaped the landscape of storytelling and representation in global media. Greene first captured international attention with his unforgettable portrayal of Kicking Bird in Dances with Wolves, 1990. A role that not only earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, but also became a defining moment in cinematic history. The film, which won 7 Oscars and grossed over $424 million worldwide, was elevated by Greene's dignified and emotionally grounded performance. For many viewers, his portrayal was the heart of the story, a fan-favorite moment that gave soul and humanity to a narrative seen by millions. Over a career that spanned more than 4 decades, Greene appeared in over 100 films and television episodes, each role infused with authenticity, gravitas, and a quiet power that resonated deeply. He played a memorable guard in The Green Mile, 1999, added warmth and humor to Maverick, 1994, and in later years reached younger audiences with his role in The Last of Us, 2023, proving his versatility and enduring relevance. Whether in leading roles or brief appearances, Greene brought weight and truth to every character he inhabited. Born on June 22, 1952, in Oswego, Ontario, Greene's journey to stardom was itself a testament to perseverance and passion. Before pursuing acting, he worked as a welder and audio technician, grounding his artistic path in real-world experience. From community theater stages to Hollywood sets, his rise was marked by resilience and an unwavering belief in the power of storytelling. At home in Canada, Greene was celebrated not only for his artistry, but for his contributions to national culture. He received multiple Gemini Awards, Canadian Screen Awards, and in 2015 was appointed to the prestigious Order of Canada, an honor recognizing his impact on the arts and his role in elevating Indigenous voices. In 2025, just months before his passing, he received the Governor General's Performing Arts Award, a crowning recognition of his life's work and a final tribute to a career that inspired countless others. Graham Greene's legacy is far more than accolades or box office numbers. It is the enduring memory of a voice and presence that gave Indigenous characters depth, dignity, and permanence on screen. His performances will continue to live on as reminders of both his extraordinary craft and the cultural truths he championed. If his performances ever touched your heart, if his characters ever made you feel seen, heard, or understood, leave the number 73, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Graham Greene to honor his memory. And please share this tribute so that his legacy and spirit can continue to reach, uplift, and inspire others across generations. Mark Volman, best known as the co-founder and exuberant voice of the 1960s pop band The Turtles, passed away on September 5, 2025, at the age of 78. His departure leaves behind a legacy of joy, harmony, and musical brilliance that shaped the soundscape of American pop for decades. From the band's debut with It Ain't Me Babe in 1965, to the chart-topping smash hit Happy Together in 1967, Volman was a constant and beloved presence in the world of music. His infectious energy, playful charisma, and distinctive vocals helped transform Happy Together into a #1 single and one of the most enduring songs of its era. That moment didn't just define a musical milestone, it became a cultural touchstone, turning Volman into a familiar figure in living rooms, radios, and concert halls across the country. Fans cherished his joyful stage presence, his ability to turn every performance into a celebration, and the way his voice carried both warmth and exuberance. Volman's artistry was never confined to one moment or one sound. It was a lifelong expression of creativity and connection. When the Turtles disbanded in 1970, Volman reinvented himself with bandmate Howard Kaylan as the dynamic duo Flo and Eddie. Together, they brought humor, harmony, and irreverent brilliance to collaborations with Frank Zappa's Mothers of Invention, and toured with legendary acts ranging from T-Rex to Bruce Springsteen. Volman's voice could be found on dozens of albums, effortlessly bridging rock, pop, and comedy with a style that was uniquely his own. Born in Los Angeles in 1947, Volman's career extended far beyond the stage. He later earned a master's degree and became a respected educator, teaching music business at Belmont University. Even as he shaped young minds in the classroom, he continued to perform in the Happy Together tours, drawing nostalgic crowds year after year and reminding audiences of the timeless joy he helped create. Mark Volman will always be remembered as Flo, a performer who carried a big smile, a bigger voice, and a love of music that never dimmed. His legacy lives on every time Happy Together plays, reminding listeners of the joy he gave the world and the spirit he infused into every note. His harmonies and energy with the Turtles gave us classics that still play in our hearts, songs that evoke memories, laughter, and the feeling of being truly alive. Volman's contribution to music wasn't just about hits, it was about happiness, connection, and the enduring power of song. To honor his life and the timeless music he helped create, comment 78. his age, or simply write R.I.P. Mark Volman. Let his voice continue to echo, reminding us that joy is a legacy worth singing. Stuart Craig, the celebrated British production designer whose visionary sets shaped the visual language of modern cinema, passed away on September 7, 2025, at the age of 82. His passing marks the end of a remarkable era in film design, but his legacy continues to live on in the unforgettable worlds he built, worlds that stirred imaginations and defined generations. Over the course of 5 decades, Craig became one of the most revered and influential figures in the art of production design. He is best known for his transformative work on the Harry Potter film series, where he turned J.K. Rowling's literary universe into breathtaking, tangible reality. From the majestic Great Hall of Hogwarts to the winding cobblestone streets of Diagon Alley, Craig's meticulous creations brought a sense of wonder, authenticity, and emotional resonance to millions of viewers around the globe. His designs didn't just support the story, they became part of it, shaping the mood, tone, and magic of the entire franchise. Craig's career began in the 1970s, and he quickly distinguished himself with an uncanny ability to merge architectural precision with narrative depth. His collaborations with director Richard Attenborough on Gandhi, 1982, and Cry Freedom, 1987, earned him 2 Academy Awards, recognizing his ability to evoke historical grandeur and emotional intimacy through space and structure. His 3rd Oscar came for The English Patient, 1996, a film whose haunting beauty was elevated by Craig's atmospheric and emotionally charged design work. These accolades cemented his place among the greats of his craft. In his later years, Craig continued to inspire new generations through his work on the Fantastic Beasts series. Expanding the magical universe, he helped define and introducing his artistry to younger audiences. His ability to evolve while remaining true to his creative essence made him a rare and enduring figure in the ever-changing world of cinema. Born on April 14, 1942, in England, Craig was known for his quiet nature and unwavering professionalism. Behind the scenes, he was revered for his precision, imagination, and collaborative spirit. He didn't seek the spotlight, but his work illuminated every frame it touched. His designs were vast yet intimate, grand yet grounded, spaces that felt lived in, loved, and layered with meaning. Stuart Craig's legacy lies not only in the films he helped shape, but in the emotional landscapes he created. His sets became places of refuge, adventure, and transformation for audiences around the world. They remain etched in memory, a testament to how the visual world can elevate storytelling and shape cinematic history. To honor the visionary designer who created the magic, comment 82, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Stuart Craig. Let his legacy continue to inspire artists, dreamers, and storytellers who believe in the power of imagination. John Penton, the legendary American motorcycle racer, visionary innovator, and enduring symbol of off-road excellence, passed away on September 7, 2025, at the remarkable age of 100. His century-long life was a testament to grit, ingenuity, and a relentless drive to push boundaries, both on the track and in the workshop. Penton began racing in the 1940s, a time when motorcycles were still evolving and off-road riding was a rugged, untamed frontier. He quickly built a reputation for endurance and determination, becoming a fixture in competitive racing circles. His feats were the stuff of legend, most notably, a grueling 52-hour ride from New York to Los Angeles without rest, a journey that tested the limits of human stamina and mechanical resilience. Representing the United States 7 times at the prestigious international 6-day trial, Penton didn't just compete, he inspired. His performances were marked by tenacity, precision, and a deep understanding of the machine beneath him. But Penton's legacy extended far beyond his racing accolades. In 1968, driven by a desire to improve the performance and accessibility of off-road bikes, Penton partnered with KTM in Austria. With a modest investment of $6,000, he helped develop lighter, more competitive motorcycles that would revolutionize the sport. Under the Penton brand, more than 25,000 motorcycles were sold in the United States, establishing KTM as a dominant force in off-road racing and setting a new standard for innovation and performance. Penton's influence didn't stop at bikes. He founded High Point Racing, a company that produced boots and gear trusted by champions across generations, including icons like Bob Hanna and Jeremy McGrath. His commitment to quality and rider experience reshaped the industry, giving athletes the tools they needed to chase their dreams with confidence and speed. Born in Amherst, Ohio, in 1925, Penton's journey was rooted in a love for adventure and a belief in the power of perseverance. He was inducted into both the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame and the Sturgis Motorcycle Hall of Fame, honors that recognized not just his achievements, but the spirit he brought to the sport. In 2014, his extraordinary career was chronicled in the documentary Penton, The John Penton Story, a film that captured the heart of a man who changed the game. Today, the GNCC series continues to hold an annual John Penton race in his honor, a living tribute to a pioneer whose vision reshaped off-road motorcycling and whose name remains synonymous with excellence. John Penton is remembered not only as a racer and innovator, but as a pioneer whose legacy lives on in every trail ridden, every bike built, and every rider who dares to go further. His life was a blueprint for passion, resilience, and transformation. To pay tribute to the man who gave riders faster bikes, better gear, and the courage to chase their dreams, comment 100, his age, or simply write R.I.P. John Penton. Let his story continue to inspire those who ride not just for speed, but for freedom. Terence Stamp, the English actor whose piercing eyes, magnetic presence, and refined portrayals of villains and complex characters made him a fixture of international cinema for over 6 decades, passed away on August 17, 2025, at the age of 87. His death marks the loss of one of film's most enigmatic and enduring talents, a performer who could command a scene with a glance and leave audiences breathless with a whisper. Born on July 22, 1938, in Stepney, London, Stamp's journey into the world of acting began with formal training at the prestigious Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art. His debut performance in Billy Budd, 1962, was nothing short of electrifying, earning him an Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe. With that role, Stamp was instantly recognized as one of Britain's rising stars, a young actor whose intensity and elegance would soon captivate the world. Throughout the 1960s, Stamp became both a style icon and a cinematic force. His role in The Collector, 1965, won him Best Actor at Cannes, while his performance as Sergeant Troy in Far From the Madding Crowd, 1967, especially the unforgettable swordplay sequence, became one of the decade's defining images. His collaborations with visionary directors such as Federico Fellini and Ken Loach further cemented his reputation for versatility, depth, and daring. Stamp's defining cultural moment came with his portrayal of General Zod in Superman, 1978, and Superman Roman II, 1980. With icy command and unforgettable delivery, his line, "Kneel before Zod," became one of cinema's most quoted villainous declarations, elevating him into global pop culture and giving the superhero genre one of its most iconic antagonists. His performance was not just menacing, it was magnetic, a masterclass in controlled power and theatrical precision. In later years, Stamp continued to surprise and delight audiences with his range. His portrayal of Bernadette in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, 1994, earned international acclaim for its warmth, humor, and humanity. In The Limey, 1999, directed by Steven Soderbergh, Stamp delivered a searing performance as a vengeful father, earning critical praise for his emotional depth and raw intensity. He also appeared in major productions such as Star Wars, Episode I: The Phantom Menace, 1999, as Chancellor Valorum and Last Night in Soho, 2021, proving his ability to remain relevant and compelling across generations. Beyond acting, Stamp was a thoughtful and introspective artist. He published 2 memoirs and several cookbooks, showcasing his wit, reflective nature, and passion for life beyond the screen. In 1995, Empire magazine named him among the 100 sexiest stars in film history, a recognition of a career that balanced screen presence with cultural influence, mystery with magnetism. Over his lifetime, Stamp appeared in more than 60 films and television projects, always bringing intensity, elegance, and emotional truth to his roles. For audiences, he was more than an actor. He was a cinematic force who could turn menace into magnetism, silence into power, and vulnerability into unforgettable emotion. His performances endure not just on screen, but in the memories of those who watched him. He gave film one of its most unforgettable villains, heroes, and icons. His artistry shaped the emotional landscape of cinema and left an indelible mark on the hearts of viewers around the world. To celebrate his life, his films, and the artistry he shared with the world, comment 87, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Terence Stamp. Let his legacy continue to inspire those who believe in the transformative power of performance. Kelsey Bateman, the candid and unforgettable reality star who rose to fame on Rock of Love, passed away on September 1, 2025, at the age of 37. Her passing leaves behind a legacy of vulnerability, authenticity, and emotional courage that resonated far beyond the confines of reality television. Appearing in the show's second season, Bateman quickly stood out, not for theatrics or rivalry, but for her openness and her willingness to share her feelings without filter or fear. In a series often defined by drama and competition, she became a breath of sincerity. Fans cherished her emotional honesty, her quiet strength, and the way she reminded viewers that behind every contestant was a real person with hopes, fears, and dreams. One of her most unforgettable moments came during a group date when she admitted, with raw vulnerability, that she longed for love that felt real. That simple confession, spoken not for attention but from the heart, became a fan favorite. It showed viewers the human soul behind the spectacle, a moment of truth that pierced through the noise and lingered long after the credits rolled. Her presence on Rock of Love and later on Charm School revealed her evolution. She shifted from a vulnerable contestant to a supportive friend, earning admiration for her authenticity and emotional growth. Audiences remember not the conflicts, but the empathy she brought to every scene, a quiet proof that even in the most chaotic corners of reality TV, honesty could shine through. Born August 12, 1988 in Austin, Texas, Bateman studied psychology and modeled before stepping into television. Her academic background gave her a unique lens on human behavior, and after her time on screen, she continued to connect with people as a mental health advocate. She used her voice to encourage others to share their struggles, to speak their truths, and to find healing through openness. For fans, Kelsey's legacy isn't measured in competition wins or screen time. It's found in the courage she showed by being unapologetically herself. Her moments on screen remain a reminder that vulnerability is not weakness, it's power. And that the truest stories are the ones that come straight from the heart. She left her mark with a bright spirit, a compassionate soul, and the roles that made audiences smile, reflect, and feel seen. To honor Kelsey Bateman, comment 37, her age, or simply write R.I.P. Kelsey Bateman. Let her legacy continue to inspire honesty, empathy, and emotional bravery. Danielle Spencer, actress, former child star, and beloved figure from American television, passed away on August 11, 2025, at the age of 59. Her passing closes the chapter on a life that touched millions through laughter, through service, and through extraordinary resilience. Born June 24, 1966, in Trenton, New Jersey, Spencer became a household name in the 1970s through her role as Dee Thomas on the ABC sitcom What's Happening? 1976-1979. From the show's premiere, Spencer stood out for her sharp wit, natural comedic timing, and magnetic screen presence. As the younger sister of Roger Thomas, her character's sarcastic one-liners and memorable expressions quickly made her a fan favorite, adding a spark of humor and heart to every episode. Over the show's 3-year run, she appeared in nearly every episode, giving What's Happening a sense of warmth and relatability that resonated with audiences across the country. When the series ended in 1979, Spencer returned to her education, later reprising her role in the syndicated sequel What's Happening Now? 1985-1988. The revival ran for 3 seasons and gave fans another chance to reconnect with her character, solidifying her place as one of the most recognized and beloved child stars of her era. Outside of acting, Spencer built a professional life in a different field, one rooted in compassion and care. She earned her veterinary degree from Tuskegee University in Alabama and went on to practice medicine, a path that reflected her lifelong love of animals. For years, she balanced her fame from television with the quieter but deeply meaningful work of caring for pets and their owners. Spencer's life was also marked by profound challenges. She survived a serious car accident in 1977 and later faced significant health issues, including a diagnosis of breast cancer in 2014. She fought publicly, with strength, candor, and grace, becoming a source of inspiration for many who followed her journey. Throughout her career, Spencer made appearances at fan conventions and television retrospectives, where she remained warmly received by those who grew up watching her on screen. What's Happening? Itself became a cultural touchstone, with reruns introducing Dee Thomas to new generations of viewers. Danielle Spencer will be remembered not only as a quick-witted child star, but also as a woman who built a career in service and showed extraordinary resilience in the face of hardship. Her life was a testament to the power of humor, healing, and perseverance. To honor Danielle Spencer, whose wit as Dee Thomas made audiences laugh and whose strength off-screen inspired so many, leave a comment with the number 59, her age, or simply write R.I.P. Danielle Spencer. Let her legacy continue to bring comfort, joy, and admiration. Randy Boone, the singer-actor who brought music and heart to television westerns of the 1960s, passed away on August 28, 2025, at the age of 83. His passing marks the loss of a gentle voice, a wandering spirit, and a performer who infused the Western genre with warmth and humanity. Boone became a household name when he joined the Virginian in 1964, playing Randy Benton, the guitar-playing cowboy who appeared in 46 episodes through 1966. Fans cherished his gentle voice, his authentic presence, and the way he brought emotional depth to a show often built on grit and conflict. One fan-favorite moment came when Benton sat by the campfire, strumming original songs under the stars. These scenes gave the series a soulfulness that lingered long after the credits rolled. Boone didn't just play a cowboy, he embodied one with sincerity and ease. Before his breakthrough, Boone starred in NBC's It's a Man's World, 1962-1963, portraying Vern Hodges. His natural charm and musicality caught the attention of producers, launching him into the Western genre. He later guest-starred in The Twilight Zone, Bonanza, and Gunsmoke, proving his versatility beyond song-filled roles. In 1965, he released a folk album titled Ramblin' Randy, along with a duet record with co-star Roberta Shore, solidifying his reputation as both an actor and musician. His voice carried the spirit of the open road, and his songs became part of the emotional landscape of classic television. Born January 17, 1942, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Boone studied mathematics before hitchhiking across the United States with a guitar in hand. That wandering spirit infused his screen work with authenticity. By the late 1980s, he stepped away from Hollywood and worked in construction, living quietly but remaining fondly remembered by fans of classic TV. Randy Boone's legacy lies in those campfire songs, his easy smile, and the sincerity he carried into every role. He will be remembered not just as an actor, but as the cowboy who made music part of the Western story, a man whose voice soothed, whose presence grounded, and whose performances touched generations. To honor Randy Boone, the beloved actor and singer from the Virginian and Samaran strip, leave the number 83, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Randy Boone. Share this tribute so that his voice and spirit continue to live on in the hearts of many. Chuck Norris, a name that does not merely belong to a man, but echoes through history like a hymn of strength, carved into the bedrock of cinema and martial arts. He is the indomitable ranger who defined justice in Walker, Texas Ranger, the fearless fighter who once faced Bruce Lee in Way of the Dragon, a duel that still reverberates in the collective memory of moviegoers. His fists became legend, his discipline became myth, and his spirit became a living anthem of resilience. For millions, he was never just an actor. He was the symbol of invincibility, the embodiment of courage, the face of a will that refused to bow, even when the world turned against him. And yet, behind that mythic armor, there was a man marked by wounds the cameras could never see. A boy who carried scars that no spotlight could erase, whose heart broke as he watched his brother fall in war, and whose soul bled from the anguish of watching his own family unravel before his eyes. Those wounds never truly healed. They became part of him, etched into his silence, his strength, his story. As twilight seemed to promise rest, another storm has risen in silence, an invisible shadow darkening the final chapter of his story. If Chuck Norris has ever touched your heart, take a moment to press like, to honor a man who still bears the weight of glory and sorrow on his shoulders. Because before the legend existed, there was a child, and that child's story began not in triumph, but in the suffocating walls of a broken home. In that house, the creak of a floorboard was not a harmless sound, but a warning. Night did not bring rest, it brought fear. Survival, not innocence, became the constant companion of a boy named Carlos Ray Norris. Born in 1940 in the small town of Ryan, Oklahoma, Chuck entered a world already wounded. His father, Ray Norris, had served in World War II. The family once received the crushing telegram declaring him missing in action, a moment of devastation that left his wife and children trembling in grief. When Ray eventually returned alive, he was no longer the same man. He carried war inside him, and to silence the ghosts, he turned to alcohol. Each drink eroded what remained of his kindness, replacing it with storms of rage. Home became a prison of unpredictability, where every whisper, every door shutting could ignite his fury. In his memoir Against All Odds, Chuck wrote with brutal honesty that his father became a negative role model, someone I never wanted to be. His mother, Wilma, on the other hand, was the pillar who held the family together, raising 3 hungry boys with nothing but grit, faith, and prayer. Chuck remembered watching her hide a $5 bill just to buy food, only to have his father stumble in, rip it from her hands, and crush that fragile hope. Even the simplest act of living could become a battlefield under Ray's anger. There were nights that felt like nightmares without end. Ray, drunk and reckless, would throw his family into the car and swerve dangerously across dark highways, declaring he was taking them back to Arizona. Wilma sobbed, begging him to stop, while the children sat frozen in terror. Chuck never forgot those rides, scars etched not on the skin but deep into the soul. Poverty was relentless. The family had nothing. For young Chuck, the only respite came in Saturday matinees when he could scrape together a dime for a cowboy movie. In the glow of that projector, he found temporary heroes, men who were strong, noble, and honorable. For a few fleeting hours, he could believe in a world where courage triumphed over cruelty. But when the film ended and he stepped outside, the shadows of his home always swallowed him again. As the early 1950s arrived, tragedy struck with merciless cruelty. Ray caused an accident that claimed an innocent life, and he was sentenced to a work camp. The family hoped prison might reform him. But when he returned, nothing changed. His drinking grew worse, his temper more dangerous, and the thin thread of hope that his family clung to snapped once more. For Chuck, shy, withdrawn, and struggling at school, life felt like a weight pressing him down. He was not the confident warrior the world would one day know. He was a boy searching for safety, for strength, for something to believe in. And slowly, through hardship and heartbreak, he began to build the armor that would carry him forward. Then, in 1993, a new chapter began, one that would immortalize Chuck Norris not just as a martial arts champion or action star, but as a symbol of unwavering justice. At 53, he stepped into the role of Cordell Walker in Walker, Texas Ranger, a character that would become synonymous with honor, discipline, and moral clarity. The series wasn't just another television show, it was a cultural phenomenon. Week after week, audiences tuned in to see Walker dispense justice with calm resolve and righteous fury. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't cruel. He was steady, principled, and deeply rooted in the values that Chuck himself had lived by: respect, perseverance, and the belief that strength should serve the vulnerable. Behind the scenes, Chuck was more than the star. He was the heartbeat of the production. He contributed to storylines, shaped character arcs, and ensured that the show reflected the values he held dear. He insisted on portraying violence responsibly, often emphasizing resolution over revenge. For Chuck, Walker, Texas Ranger was more than entertainment. It was a platform to model integrity, courage, and compassion. The show ran for 8 seasons, from 1993 to 2001, and became one of the longest-running action series of its time. It reached millions across the globe, transcending language and culture. Children saw a hero they could admire. Parents saw a man they could trust. Veterans saw a warrior who understood sacrifice. And those who had suffered saw someone who had endured and overcome. Chuck's portrayal of Walker was not just acting, it was autobiography. Every punch thrown, every line delivered carried the weight of his past. The boy who once clutched a hammer in defense of his mother had become the man who stood for justice in front of millions. The child who once felt invisible had become a beacon of strength. But Chuck's legacy didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. He continued to teach, to mentor, and to advocate. He founded Kickstart Kids, a nonprofit organization that uses martial arts to instill character and discipline in at-risk youth. Through this program, he gave thousands of children the same gift that once saved him: belief in themselves. He also wrote books, shared his faith, and remained a public figure who never lost touch with humility. Despite fame, he stayed grounded, always crediting his mother, his martial arts mentors, and his fans for lifting him up. He never forgot where he came from, and he never stopped reaching back to help others rise. Chuck Norris became more than a man. He became a myth, a meme, a symbol. But beneath the legend was always the truth: a boy from Ryan, Oklahoma, who faced darkness and chose light, a fighter who turned pain into purpose, a teacher who turned discipline into hope. His story is not just one of fists and fame. It is a story of transformation. Of a child who endured the unimaginable and emerged with a vow to protect, to uplift, and to inspire. Chuck Norris didn't just survive, he transcended. To honor his journey, his legacy, and the strength he gave to the world, leave a comment with 83, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Let his story continue to echo, not just in action scenes, but in every heart that dares to rise from hardship and fight for something better. In 1993, Chuck Norris stepped into the boots of Cordell Walker, and with that, Walker, Texas Ranger, was born, not just as a television series, but as a cultural institution. At 53, Chuck didn't just play a lawman, he embodied one. Walker was a character forged in the same crucible as Chuck himself: disciplined, principled, and quietly relentless. He didn't need to shout to command respect. He didn't need to boast to inspire fear in wrongdoers. His presence alone was enough. The show ran for 8 seasons, from 1993 to 2001, and became a beacon of moral clarity in a world often clouded by ambiguity. Chuck's portrayal of Walker was more than entertainment. It was a weekly sermon on honor, courage, and the power of doing what's right, even when it's hard. Viewers saw in Walker the same strength Chuck had cultivated since childhood: the ability to stand firm in the face of chaos, to protect the vulnerable, and to never back down from a fight worth fighting. Behind the scenes, Chuck was deeply involved in shaping the show's tone and message. He insisted on storylines that uplifted, that taught, that reflected the values he lived by. Violence was never gratuitous. It was purposeful, restrained, and always in service of justice. He wanted young viewers to see that true strength came not from domination, but from discipline and compassion. As Walker, Texas Ranger, grew in popularity, Chuck's influence extended far beyond the screen. He became a symbol of American resilience, a figure who stood for integrity in an era hungry for heroes. His image adorned posters, lunchboxes, and action figures, but more importantly, his values found their way into homes, schools, and hearts. And Chuck didn't stop there. He used his platform to give back, founding Kickstart Kids, a nonprofit organization that brought martial arts programs to at-risk youth across Texas and beyond. In those dojos, children who had known only hardship found structure, mentorship, and hope. Chuck taught them that they were not defined by their circumstances, that like him, they could rise. He also became a vocal advocate for veterans, law enforcement, and faith-based initiatives. He spoke openly about his Christian beliefs, his struggles, and his gratitude for the second chances life had given him. He wrote books that blended autobiography with philosophy, sharing lessons learned from the mat, the battlefield, and the broken home he once escaped. Even as memes and internet jokes turned him into a larger-than-life figure. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down. He embraced the humor with humility. He understood that behind the exaggerations was admiration, and behind the laughter was love. He never let the myth eclipse the man. In his later years, Chuck stepped back from the spotlight, spending more time with his family, especially his wife Gina and their children. He remained active in philanthropy, martial arts, and public speaking, always returning to the themes that defined him: perseverance, faith, and service. And through it all, the boy from Ryan, Oklahoma, the one who once stood trembling with a hammer in his hand, never forgot the vow he made in the darkness. He kept it. Every role, every fight, every word was a testament to that promise to never become the man who terrified him, and to always be the protector his mother believed he could be. Chuck Norris's story is not just one of fame or fists. It is the story of transformation, of a child forged in sorrow who became a guardian of strength, of a man who turned pain into purpose and who taught the world that true power lies not in how hard you hit, but in how deeply you care. To honor Chuck Norris, his life, his legacy, and the light he gave to millions, comment 83, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Let his story continue to inspire those who walk through darkness searching for the courage to rise. When Chuck Norris became Cordell Walker in Walker, Texas Ranger, he didn't just step into a role, he stepped into a mantle. The show wasn't built on spectacle alone, it was built on values. Each episode was a parable of justice, discipline, and redemption. And Chuck, with his quiet intensity and unwavering moral compass, became the embodiment of those ideals. Audiences didn't just watch Walker, they believed in him. In a time when television heroes were often flawed or cynical, Chuck offered something different, a man who stood firm, who didn't compromise, who believed that right and wrong still mattered. He wasn't perfect, but he was principled, and that made all the difference. The show's impact rippled far beyond ratings. Teachers used episodes to discuss ethics. Parents pointed to Walker as a role model. Veterans saw in him a reflection of their own battles. And children, especially those growing up in hardship, saw hope. Chuck had once been one of them. Now he was showing them what survival could become when shaped by purpose. Behind the scenes, Chuck remained deeply involved. He ensured that martial arts weren't just choreography, they were philosophy. He insisted that every fight scene carry meaning, that every victory be earned. He brought in real martial artists, mentored young actors, and used his influence to elevate others. He wasn't just starring, he was stewarding. And when the series ended in 2001, Chuck didn't fade. He transitioned gracefully, continuing to write, teach, and advocate. His books, part memoir, part motivational guide, became lifelines for readers seeking strength in their own struggles. He spoke at schools, military bases, and community centers, always returning to the themes that had defined his life: faith, family, and fortitude. His philanthropic work deepened. Through Kickstart Kids, he reached tens of thousands of students, many from underserved communities. He didn't just fund the program, he visited dojos, spoke to students, and listened to their stories. He knew what it meant to feel powerless, and he knew how martial arts could change that. Chuck's legacy also grew in unexpected ways. The internet transformed him into a mythic figure. Chuck Norris facts became viral sensations, exaggerating his strength to comic extremes. He could divide by zero, count to infinity, slam a revolving door. Chuck laughed with the world, never mocking the jokes, but embracing the affection behind them. He understood that legends are born not just from feats, but from the love people carry for the person behind them. And through it all, Chuck remained grounded. He credited his mother Wilma for his strength, his brother Wieland for his courage, and his fans for his endurance. He never claimed to be invincible. He simply refused to be broken. As the years passed, Chuck became more than a celebrity. He became a symbol. A reminder that pain can be transformed, that discipline can heal, and that the quiet strength of a good man can echo louder than any roar. His legacy is not confined to film reels or tournament records. It lives in the students who found confidence in his dojos, in the veterans who saw honor in his roles, in the families who gathered around the TV to watch Walker restore justice, and in the countless hearts who saw in Chuck Norris not just a fighter, but a father figure, a mentor, a light. To honor Chuck Norris, his journey from broken boy to beloved icon, leave a comment with 83, his age, or simply write, R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Let his story continue to walk beside us, reminding us that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the choice to rise again and again. By the early 1990s, Chuck Norris had faced more loss than most men could bear. A brother taken by war, a marriage unraveled by fame, a daughter discovered too late, a friend stolen by illness. Each heartbreak had stripped away another layer of illusion, revealing the raw, human truth beneath the legend. And yet, Chuck did not retreat into bitterness or isolation. He chose instead to live with deeper intention. He began to speak more openly about his faith, his failures, and the lessons carved into him by hardship. He no longer needed to be seen as invincible. He wanted to be understood as real. He poured his energy into Kickstart Kids, the nonprofit he founded to teach character through martial arts. For Chuck, this was not a side project. It was a calling. He visited schools, spoke to students, and watched as children who had known only chaos found discipline, confidence, and hope. He saw himself in their eyes, the shy boy from Ryan, Oklahoma, who once felt invisible, and he gave them what he had once longed for, someone who believed in them. His teachings went beyond technique. He spoke of respect, perseverance, and the power of choice. He told them that strength was not about domination, it was about self-control. That courage was not the absence of fear, it was the decision to keep going anyway, and that every setback, every scar could become the foundation of something greater. Chuck also began writing with renewed purpose. His books, part memoir, part philosophy, became lifelines for readers navigating their own storms. He shared stories of failure, redemption, and the quiet victories that never made headlines. He wrote not to impress, but to connect, to remind people that even heroes stumble and that healing begins with honesty. As the years passed, Chuck's public image evolved. The internet turned him into a meme, a symbol of exaggerated toughness. Chuck Norris doesn't sleep, he waits. When Chuck Norris enters a room, gravity adjusts. These jokes, though fantastical, carried affection. They were tributes, not mockery. And Chuck embraced them with humility and humor, understanding that behind the myth was admiration. But those who knew him best saw something deeper. They saw a man who still rose before dawn to train, who still prayed for strength and forgiveness, who still carried the memory of his brother, his daughter, his friend. They saw a man who had been broken and who had chosen to rebuild, not with arrogance, but with grace. In interviews, Chuck spoke often of his mother, Wilma. He called her his hero, the woman who had held their family together with faith and grit. He credited her with everything, his resilience, his values, his survival. And when she passed, Chuck mourned not just a parent, but the last living link to the boy he had once been. He also spoke of his wife, Gina, whom he married in 1998. She became his partner in advocacy, in faith, and in healing. Together they raised children, supported causes, and faced new challenges, including Gina's own health battles, which Chuck met with fierce devotion. He stepped away from the spotlight to care for her, proving once again that strength is measured not in fame, but in love. Chuck Norris's later years were not marked by stunts or scripts. They were marked by service, by mentorship, by the quiet, enduring power of a man who had nothing left to prove but everything left to give. His legacy is not just in the films or the championships. It is in the lives he touched, the students he taught, the truths he shared. It is in the understanding that behind every legend is a story of pain, perseverance, and transformation. To honor Chuck Norris, not just the fighter, but the father, the friend, the mentor, leave a comment with 83, his age, or simply write, R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Let his story continue to guide those who walk through darkness, searching for the strength to rise. By the early 2000s, Chuck Norris had become more than a household name. He was a symbol etched into the fabric of global culture, a man whose journey from broken boy to cinematic warrior had inspired millions. But behind the accolades and the mythos, Chuck was entering a new phase of life. One not defined by fists or fame, but by reflection, restoration, and the quiet pursuit of peace. He had faced the death of his brother Wieland, the collapse of his first marriage, the revelation of a daughter he never knew, and the loss of a dear friend to cancer. Each heartbreak had stripped away another illusion, revealing the fragile humanity beneath the legend. And yet, Chuck did not retreat. He leaned into the pain, allowing it to shape him, not into bitterness, but into wisdom. He began to speak more openly about his faith, not as a performance, but as a lifeline. Christianity had always been part of his foundation, but now it became his compass. He wrote devotionals, shared testimonies, and spoke at churches and conferences, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had walked through fire and found grace on the other side. His marriage to Gina O'Kelly in 1998 became a turning point. With her, Chuck found not just companionship, but partnership. Gina was not merely his wife. She was his anchor, his advocate, and his collaborator. Together, they raised twins and built a life rooted in service, faith, and family. When Gina faced a serious health crisis in the 2010s, Chuck stepped away from public life to care for her full time. He became her protector once again, not on a film set, but in hospital rooms and quiet prayers. This act of devotion revealed the core of who Chuck had always been, a man who fought for those he loved. Whether it was his mother Wilma, his brother Wieland, his children, or his wife, Chuck's strength was never about domination, it was about defense. He was not the hero who sought glory. He was the guardian who stood between the storm and the ones he cherished. In his later years, Chuck continued to write, mentor, and advocate. He published memoirs that peeled back the layers of myth, revealing the vulnerable truths beneath. He spoke of his failures, his regrets, and the lessons he wished he had learned sooner. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He simply offered his story as a map for others navigating their own battles. He also remained deeply involved in Kickstart Kids, visiting schools, speaking to students, and reminding them that discipline could be a doorway to transformation. He saw in their eyes the same fear he once carried, and he gave them hope, not through speeches, but through presence, through listening, through showing up. Chuck's legacy became less about what he did and more about what he gave. He gave strength to the weak, voice to the voiceless, and dignity to those who had been told they didn't matter. He became a living testament to the idea that pain, when met with purpose, can become power. And as the years passed, Chuck Norris did not fade. He became quieter, yes, more reflective. But the flame never dimmed. It simply burned deeper. In every tribute, every meme, every whispered walker, there was a recognition, not just of the fighter, but of the man. The boy who once stood trembling in a broken home. The brother who mourned. The father who failed and tried again. The friend who wept. The husband who stayed. Chuck Norris's story is not just one of triumph, it is one of transformation, of a life forged in hardship, refined in discipline, and redeemed in love. To honor the full legacy of Chuck Norris, the man behind the myth, the heart behind the hero, leave a comment with 83, his age, or simply write R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Let his story continue to guide those who believe that strength is not in how loudly you roar, but in how deeply you care. At 85, Chuck Norris no longer seeks the spotlight. He does not chase applause, nor does he measure his worth in trophies or headlines. The man who once stood at the center of global attention now walks slowly through the quiet fields of his Texas ranch, accompanied not by cameras, but by memory. And in that silence, he has found something deeper than fame. He has found truth. His body, once sculpted by decades of martial discipline, now moves with the grace of age. His hands, which once delivered cinematic justice, now cradle the reins of horses and the hands of grandchildren. His voice, once commanding on screen, now speaks softly to those he loves. And his heart, once armored by myth, now beats openly, scarred, yes, but still strong. Chuck Norris has become a living testament to the idea that strength is not about how hard you hit, but how deeply you endure. That greatness is not forged in victory alone, but in the way you carry your losses. That love, when chosen again and again through suffering, becomes the most powerful force a human being can wield. He has faced war, heartbreak, illness, and regret. He has buried a brother, lost a marriage, missed a childhood, and watched a friend fade. He has held his wife's trembling hand through years of agony and sacrificed everything to stay by her side. And through it all, he has never stopped rising. His legacy is not just in the films or the fight scenes. It is in the children who found hope through Kickstart Kids. It is in the families who saw in Walker a model of justice. It is in the quiet moments, when he chose love over career, presence over performance, humility over myth. Chuck Norris is no longer the man who cannot be defeated. He is something far greater, the man who was defeated and chose to rise anyway. The man who turned pain into purpose and fame into service. The man who taught us that even legends must bow to time, but that dignity, devotion, and love can turn even the darkest years into a story of light. So if Chuck Norris has ever inspired you, if his journey from hardship to heroism has touched your soul, honor him not with applause, but with reflection. Carry forward the lessons he lived, that strength is quiet, that love is enduring, and that the greatest legacy is not what you build, but what you give. Leave a tribute. Share his story. And remember, the greatest force on earth is not invincibility, it is the courage to love through the storm. As the sun sets over the wide fields of his Navasota ranch, Chuck Norris walks slowly, not as a warrior seeking battle, but as a man who has already fought every fight that mattered. The wind rustles through the trees, and in its hush, he hears the voices of those he's loved and lost. Wheeland, Deanne, Lee, Dina's childhood, Gina's suffering. Each name a chapter, each memory a scar, each scar a story. He no longer trains for tournaments. He trains for clarity. His mornings begin with prayer, not preparation. His evenings end not with applause, but with quiet gratitude. The man who once stood beneath stadium lights now stands beneath stars, asking not for victory, but for peace. And yet, Chuck Norris remains a presence in the world, not through fame, but through impact. His martial arts schools still echo with the sounds of discipline and hope. His books still line shelves, offering wisdom forged in fire. His name still inspires awe, not because he cannot be defeated, but because he never stopped rising. He speaks less now, but when he does, it is with the weight of a life lived fully. He tells young fighters that strength is not in the punch, it's in the patience. He tells grieving parents that pain is not the end, it's the beginning of deeper love. He tells his children that legacy is not what you leave behind, it's what you live through. And when he looks at Gina, still by his side, still fighting, still smiling through the pain, he sees the truest reflection of his own soul. Not the fighter, not the star, but the man who stayed, the man who chose love over everything, the man who proved that devotion is the greatest discipline of all. His twins, Dakota and Danilee, now grown, carry his spirit forward, not through fame, but through character. They know their father not as a meme or a myth, but as a man who cried, who sacrificed, who endured. Their childhood was shaped not by red carpets, but by hospital rooms and whispered prayers. And that, Chuck believes, is the greatest gift he could have given them, the truth. Because in the end, Chuck Norris's story is not about invincibility, it's about vulnerability. It's about the boy who stood trembling with a hammer, the brother who mourned, the husband who stayed, the father who tried, the friend who wept, the man who, through every storm, chose to love harder, stand firmer, and rise again. His ranch may be quiet, his body may be slower, but his legacy roars. In every child who finds strength through martial arts, in every viewer who saw justice in Walker's eyes, in every person who reads his story and realizes that even legends bleed, and that's what makes them beautiful. So if Chuck Norris has ever inspired you, if his journey from hardship to heroism has touched your soul, honor him not with myth but with memory. Share his story. Carry his lessons. And remember, the greatest force on earth is not strength. It is love, chosen again and again, even when the world tries to take it away. As the years stretch gently across the horizon of Chuck Norris's life, the world around him grows quieter, but never empty. The ranch in Navasota, with its still lakes and open skies, has become more than a home. It is a sanctuary, a place where the echoes of his past walk beside him like old friends, where the wind carries whispers of battles fought, promises kept, and love endured. He no longer moves with the urgency of youth, but with the wisdom of survival. His steps are slower, but each one is deliberate. Each one carries the weight of a life lived in full, through triumph and tragedy, through fame and heartbreak, through silence and devotion. Visitors who come to the ranch don't find a celebrity. They find a man who listens more than he speaks, who smiles with the softness of someone who has known both glory and grief, who shares stories not to impress, but to connect. Chuck's presence is no longer cinematic, it's spiritual. He is not performing, he is passing on. He still teaches, though not in dojos or on sets. He teaches through example, through the way he holds Gina's hand as they walk the fields, through the way he speaks to his children with patience and reverence, through the way he greets every sunrise as a gift, not a guarantee. And those who know him best understand that his greatest victories were never filmed. They were lived. In the quiet forgiveness offered to a daughter he never knew, in the sleepless nights spent beside a wife in pain, in the tears shed for a brother lost to war, in the strength it took to rise again, not for applause, but for love. Chuck Norris's legacy is not a statue or a slogan. It is a living force. It exists in every child who finds confidence through martial arts, in every veteran who sees honor in his roles, in every person who reads his story and realizes that strength is not about being unbreakable, it's about choosing to rebuild. He is now a grandfather, a mentor, a quiet flame that refuses to fade. His grandchildren know him not as a meme, but as a man who kneels to tie their shoes, who tells them stories of courage and kindness, who teaches them that the strongest people are often the gentlest. And as he watches them grow, Chuck sees the future, not in fame, but in character. He sees the seeds he planted in Kickstart kids blooming in lives he may never meet. He sees the ripple of his choices extending far beyond the screen into classrooms, homes, and hearts. He still supports causes close to his soul, veterans organizations, faith-based initiatives, youth mentorship, not for recognition, but because he believes that every life touched is a victory, that every moment spent lifting others is a legacy worth leaving. And when the day comes, years from now, perhaps, when Chuck Norris's name is spoken not in present tense but in reverent memory, it will not be the roundhouse kicks or the box office numbers that define him. It will be the love, the devotion, the quiet strength that carried him through every storm, because Chuck Norris was never just a fighter. He was a father, a husband, a brother, a friend, a man who chose to rise again and again, not because he was fearless, but because he was faithful. So if his story has ever stirred something in you, if his journey from broken boy to beloved icon has reminded you of your own strength, honor him now. Not with myth, but with meaning. Carry forward his lessons, live with courage, love with devotion, and rise no matter how many times you fall, because that is the legacy of Chuck Norris, not invincibility, but grace. As twilight deepens over the Texas horizon, Chuck Norris sits quietly on his porch, the sky above him painted in hues of gold and ash. The land stretches wide and still, as if holding its breath in reverence. He watches the sun dip low, not with sorrow, but with gratitude. Every sunset now feels like a gift, every breath a reminder, every heartbeat a legacy. He no longer seeks to conquer, he seeks to remember, to honor, to pass on. The world still speaks his name, in martial arts studios where his teachings echo, in homes where Walker, Texas Ranger reruns play like hymns of justice, in classrooms where Kickstart Kids continues to shape futures, in whispered jokes and viral memes that beneath their humor carry admiration. But Chuck Norris himself has grown quiet, not absent, present in a deeper way, present in the lives he's touched, in the children he's mentored, in the family he's protected, in the love he's chosen again and again through every storm. His ranch is not a monument. It is a living memory, a place where horses run free, where laughter still rises from the kitchen, where Gina's hand still rests in his, and where the ghosts of his past walk gently beside him, not to haunt but to remind. He remembers Wieland, the brother who gave his life, Deanne, the wife who shared his youth, Dina, the daughter he found too late, Lee, the friend who faded too soon, and he remembers the boy he once was, afraid, invisible, trembling with a hammer in his hand. That boy became a fighter. That fighter became a star. That star became a husband, a father, a mentor, a man. And now that man has become something even greater, a legacy. Chuck Norris's story does not end in silence. It ends in echo, in every act of courage inspired by his journey, in every moment of devotion sparked by his example, in every soul who chooses to rise, not because they are fearless, but because they are faithful. He taught us that strength is not the absence of pain, it is the decision to keep going. That love is not weakness, it is the greatest power we possess, and that the true measure of a life is not in what you achieve, but in what you give. So as the final chapter closes, let us not mourn. Let us remember. Let us carry forward the light he lit in the darkness. Let us honor the man who stood tall, not because he never fell, but because he always rose. To Chuck Norris, whose fists once struck with justice, whose heart now beats with grace, and whose legacy will live as long as courage is needed, thank you. You were never just a legend. You were love made strong.